Alright, it's Gremlin here again with the old Gremlin Gamer. And so today we're going to be going over class mods. And to kind of get the full scope of this, I probably will have to jump around from character to character just to give, basically just so you can see some of the differences in the archetypes and some of the similarities as well, but also just to give a better view of the range of the archetypes for the various class mods. I had recently kind of purged some of these and didn't realize until I started going through characters for making this video and realized, wow, I have hardly no class mods anymore. Um, and obviously tend to favor certain archetypes, so a lot of them tend to repeat on certain characters, which is not what I wanted for this. I was hoping to have some more of the other archetypes, just so we can get a full view of what the different builds you can get are and what trees they're focusing on. So right now we're looking at my Siren Mule. A mule is basically a second character you create, or third, fourth, fifth, or sixth, for no other purpose than to just store gear on. Comes in very handy in this game because your backpack and your save are pretty limited on space. So what we are currently rocking on her is a Banshee class mod. So as I was explaining before, a class mod is basically what it means. It's modifying your class. So there are many types of Siren. There are many types of Necromancer, so on and so forth. And so the mods basically create or play off a particular archetype, which would basically be a subclass of sorts for your particular class, like a specialized focus. So for this situation with the Banshee class mods, Banshee is the middle name in there. You'll see it says Scorched Banshee class. So class mods, like anything else in this game, roll randomly. So basically what that means is the stats and the particular skill point bonuses are random, and they're usually based on the level of the class mod. And the prefix will give you a rough idea of what this one's specifically going with. So I believe with the Scorch, it's because it's providing mostly bonuses to fire-based attacks. Uh, the key thing here to remember is, so with this, the Banshee archetype is always going to provide you with shield recharge rate and shield recharge delay, with a penalty to max health. Some give a really good perk or really good bonus, and in that case, they usually do come with a handicap of some sort. Some do not come with a handicap. The other half of the class mod is where you get a bonus action skill points are being applied to various skills on your character. So in this case, Immolate is getting 1 skill point, and Backdraft is getting 2 skill points, and Fleet is getting none. And I would also like to point out at this point too that in Borderlands 2, in order to get that free point there has to be at least 1 skill point in that skill already. As long as it has a skill point in it, it will receive those bonus skill points. Now, they changed this in 3 where you don't actually have to have a skill point in that skill. Whatever bonus skill points the class mod's giving you automatically apply to that skill, whether you put any points into it or not. But unfortunately in Borderlands 2, this can be a little frustrating, especially at lower levels when you get class mods that are giving you bonuses and skills that you have no way of possibly specking into for at least another 10 or 15 levels. That said, it's always good to try and take advantage of any free skill points. In this case, like I said, this is just my mule character, so I'm not even sure why this class mod's on her. It was just what I was using, I guess, probably for the 2 skills it was procking, or giving bonus points to. So, moving on to show what we're looking at here. So this is a Fox class mod. Fox class mods typically or just a straight up bonus to your fire damage, giving you increased ignite chance and burn damage as your main two bonus perks. The plague prefix, it's probably because of the fact it puts most of the points towards the White Phoenix skill. Then, of course, your skill points are being split up between 3 different skills, and I'm going to get to that as well, because there is some uniqueness when it comes to the difference between blue and purple rarity class mods. And in some cases, sometimes a blue class mod can actually be the superior, depending on what you're going for. Just for the simple fact that those bonus skill points are not only being broken up between 2 skills instead of 3. But when you get to like level 72, it's not as significant, but at the same time, you'll see what I'm talking about when we get more into that. Right now, I just want to focus on basically a breakdown of the different archetypes. So you have the Banshee, you have the Fox, here's another Banshee. You have the Trickster class mod, which basically just gives you an increased fire rate of 30% and usually gives you skill points into Chain Reaction, Life Tap, or Kinetic Reflect. Then there's the Warder skill. This is one that makes your Siren a bit more tanky. Warder class mods usually always give you a increased shield capacity by quite a bit. Also gives you skill points towards Wreck, Ward, and Recompense. Here's another Fox. Then we have the Matriarch. Now the Matriarch is good for survivability, and in some cases if you're playing a support role with healing, because obviously if you're the healer you want to make sure that you stay alive. So this one actually gives you bonus HP and magazine size of your guns, while also increasing skills for Elated and Life Tap. Now there's another type that actually gives you Team Healing, which is the one I was thinking of on, and once again it's definitely focused on you acting as a healer support character. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those class mods, and that's what I was hoping to find, just to show some of the differences here. That said, I do want to take advantage. Right now, we do have a blue here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So, you have a total of 11 skill points here being split up between 2 skills versus 11 skill points being divided between 3 skills. So, you'll have the possibility of some skills getting 6 points, which is, I believe, the highest you can get as far as maxing out the skill if you're putting your other action skill points into that skill and just topping them off with the class mod. But then there's situations where possibly all 3 of those skills are top notch, and in this case you are only getting, still a max of 3 in one, 4 in another, and 5 in one. And a lot of times this will be the break up on the higher level. Obviously lower level skill class mods are going to not give you as many points. So you can see the difference between this Banshee class mod and the level 72. You're getting a total of 9 skill points applied, where this one is only actually giving you a total of 4. And then you have a case like these, once again, how they're being broken up. So let me go real quick and switch to a different character that's more relevant to actually just to get on a completely different end of the spectrum. Oh, and here's the load times, something I was hoping to avoid on the videos. So aside from the rarities, typically be in the archetypes for the rarities, there are also legendary class mods, and I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure these are only available once you get into True and Ultimate Long. And so each character actually has 4 base legendary class mods, and each of these is based on an archetype, and in most of these, each archetype is based on one of their skill trees, and then you've got basically the generalized one, which in this case would be like the legendary Siren class mod. Now there's some interesting differences between this class mod and the more specific legendary class mods you can get. So in this case, with the legendary Siren, or if you would get the legendary Gunzerker, Necromancer, you receive 5 skills each, but they're all on the baseline skills for the most part. So we got an Accelerate, Mind's Eye. This one actually jumps over up to Wreck, and then Foresight, and Reaper. So I somewhat fib. This one's kind of interesting. It does leap a little bit forward down the skill tree on this one, but a lot of the other ones typically focus on these baseline skills. And in this case, they're all in different trees, because basically this class mod is just focused on making you... Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. That's what I have equipped here. Hold up. So, as I was saying, there we go. Yeah, all your baseline skills, for the most part, in each tree are covered by this. And so, with the Legendary Siren, the main thing you're getting is bonus cooldown rate and gun damage. And admittedly, this is a really good class mod. As far as Maya goes, it just gives her a lot of oomph. Ward, Accelerate, Mind's Eye, Flicker, Foresight, these are all really great skills that as you can see, I'm already spec'd into anyways. This just puts them into really obnoxious levels of overpoweredness. And then the fact that you already have a relatively short cooldown, it just, let's see, increases movement speed by 45% with this. See, that's another increased ability that you're getting here. Whenever you have an enemy phase locked, you move around super fast. I almost forgot about that one. So then we have the more specific ones, and there's usually 3 more, typically based on either an archetype or a tree. So in this case, one of my personal favorite are the cat class mods, in this case the legendary cat. And so what this gives you is 114% increase to submachine gun damage, while you receive a penalty of 36% less accuracy with submachine guns. This one gives you points into Mind's Eye, Wreck, Accelerate, Reaper, and Foresight. So we get a massive boost to critical hit and melee damage, gun damage and bullet speed, most importantly Wreck, fire rate, and more gun damage, increased magazine size and reload, and more gun damage. So how this works is it's all about unloading with submachine guns when you have an enemy phase locked. And you just dump damage like you would not believe. And there's so many good submachine gun options. We're, of course, using the overpowered, ridiculous Sandhawk, which obviously also doesn't require a whole lot of accuracy to be good with, so it makes that penalty a little less of an issue. And then next we have the legendary binder. So this is more of like the support role I was talking about, only this one, instead of healing the team, actually gives everybody cooldown, bonus cooldown. Gives you bonus points to Reaper, Helios, Suspension, Wreck, and Sweet Release. Let's see if there's anything secret on this. Nope, pretty straightforward on that one. So I do believe there's another one, and I don't have it, and I don't remember what it's called, but I'm pretty sure it's like a matriarch or healing focused one. And then there is another one. Aside from the main 4, there's actually a 5th legendary class mod for each class that's tied to taking out the first raid boss, Terramorphous. It is the Slayer Terramorphous. And this is an extremely difficult class mod to get. It's especially sought after by like Gauge players because it gives you the unique ability to increase your anarchy stacks up to 600, which is just insane. Um, but it's just a really from what I remember, it's a really good class mod to have for any of the characters to get because it gives you some really unique perks and bonuses. Aside from dropping those legendary class mods, Terramorphous will also drop a really beefy shield called the Hide of Terramorphous and a shotgun called the Teeth of Terramorphous. The shotgun's not bad. It's kind of a novelty thing, but it's not a bad gun for the most part. And the shield is ridiculous. It's especially useful for Krieg or Gauge if you're using her Sharon's Karen, because what the shield does is it's already got a pretty high capacity, but it acts as a Spike, Nova, Roid shield all in one. Enemies attack you, does spike damage. Once it gets depleted, it creates a large, powerful Fire Nova, and then gives you Roid damage for a period of time. Just nasty, nasty, nasty. It just basically, it's like I said, it's a really good one to put on Death Trap or to put on Krieg, no matter if you're going for a fire build or a physical build, because you're gonna just be so much more durable and doing damage to the enemies that you're crowding up on your character or crowding up on you if you're playing Krieg. And of course, having that extra melee damage is always nice. So I think that's all I've got on this character because I wanted to show those different legendary class mods. And once again, you see that these are giving you an extra 25 skill points to your character. So it's definitely worth tracking down the legendary class mods. There is also some unique ones, like this one here, that you can only get from the Tiny Tina DLC. These kind of play off of Dungeons and Dragons archetypes, but the key thing is most all of these usually improve your critical hit damage by a dramatic amount, which is always useful. And it's just fun to have options to bake builds. And that was the other thing I want to mention too, is that another thing that class mods are good for is helping you figure out how to build your character. Because honestly, when you're first playing this game, it's not always obvious what's the best skill to pick up, which tree to go down, which tree to focus on first, what skills work best with each other. What are you going for? What is your playstyle? Are you trying to be more of a healer? Are you trying to deal elemental damage? Are you trying to make the most use of your action skill? The class mod can act as a guide in that regard to help you get a particular build to go for a specific playstyle that you're looking for. So in my case, like I said, I tend to like to play a cat class. Even before I got my legendary cat class mod, I still liked the cat class mods in general. Especially because by that point I had a Sandhawk, and I was all about just trying to increase that Sandhawk damage. Between that and actually, I'm surprised I'm using that shield, but anyways. For others, they may want to increase their cooldown, or they may want to increase their cooldown even more and have better gun damage, or they want to play more of a support role. It just kind of depends on what you're going for. But like I said, it's beneficial in the fact that it can at least give you an idea of where to put skill points based on the playstyle you're going for. So obviously, for the cat, it's beneficial to have as much increased gun damage as you can get in every possible way. Because it's what this is kind of basically the way to create a high damage, like basically a boss build. If you're looking to try and make Maya better at doing single point damage, like say 0, this is the build to go for. This is what you're looking at, as your way to front up damage with her. Although she's still definitely good for crowd control with this, And another nice thing is that you can easily, in most cases, change the class mod without having to dramatically change your actual build and still benefit from everything that you want to benefit from. In this case, yeah, every single one of my skills that it's giving me bonuses in, I'm using anyways. And so even though it's changed that, it's also kind of changed my focus. So now I'm kind of a little bit better at everything. In this case, this is more about, just basically being a really good character in general. Good cooldown, good damage. It's giving you perks into some of the better skills. It's always good to get uh, a good mix there for that. Whereas, say, never even actually tried this one. Let's see what the binder class does. So once again, this is about more of a support role. Despite that, it's giving you basically points into increasing your phase lock duration, and of course making use of that by increasing your damage output. And with this one, we're getting a bit more focus on elemental damage. While, trying to be a support role to a point as well, so you're spreading that cooldown. But honestly, I think in the bigger picture, the legendary Siren's the better
There's pros and
class
cons
mod.
to each.
Alright, so lastly, I wanted to take a peek at the Gunzerker real quick. Or actually, let's look at my Psycho, because the Psycho is an example of something too I want to mention, and that is that sometimes legendary class mod is not always the best option. Depending on the build you're going for, sometimes it's better to go with a regular blue or purple rarity class mod. So with Krieg here, as you can see, I actually have his legendary Psycho, legendary Sickle, legendary Reaper, and then you can see I got quite a few crunch mods, and then a evil barbarian. Once again, one of those class mods from the Tiny Tina DLC. So, and then what do I have equipped? I have a Flesh Crunch class mod. Purple rarity, level 73, giving me 50% more explosion damage with perks to strip the flesh, taste of blood, and blood trance. And so, what does that mean? We are getting taste of blood, which basically during Blood's Rampage, all damage you suffer is reduced. Damage reduction is increased for each stack of Bloodlust, so this will keep you alive and resilient. So with that class mod, it's giving me 65% damage reduction at maximum, while also giving me a bonus of 39 Bloodlust stacks per kill. Then we're getting Blood Trance, which increases the duration of Bug's Rampage. And then most importantly, we're getting Strip the Flesh, increases explosive damage, bonus increase further when in fight for your life. So once again, with this build, it's all about explosive damage. We're using mostly Torg weapons, Grog nozzles just for healing, but otherwise, Bada Boom, Deadly Bloom, Nova Shield, Magic Missile for slagging, and our relic is an explosive damage relic. So if we look at the class mods, Legendary Psycho is not bad. We're getting burn damage, magazine size, shield recharge delay. So once again, as the Psycho is basically his class, this one's designed to basically give him a good build across the board. So whether you're focused on the Mania tree or the Hellborn tree or even the Bloodlust, which you'd likely spec into if you're no matter which of these trees you got into, it's giving you skills across the board. It's giving you benefits across the board. So in the case of both melee damage and fire damage, that's appealing to both the Mania and the fire build tree. So let's just throw this on here to see what the skills come down to. So once again, we're getting all the baseline skills are filled. Not a big surprise. Then we have the Sickle class mod. Now this one is more about doing melee damage. It provides you a 50% increase to melee damage, and most of these skills that it's boosting are probably going to apply to that as well. So we have Empty the Rage, increases melee damage further, increased if your shield is down or magazine is empty. Heinous Power, once again this was the increases gun damage for all gun types except sniper rifles, increases critical hit damage with all weapons, and increases melee damage. So that's adding to your melee damage. And we just went over Taste the Blood, so that is your BuzzX Rampage, which once again typically is melee focused. And then Fuel the Blood, killing enemy which with melee attacks increases grenade damage for each stack of Bloodlust, as well as adding more Bloodlust stacks. So kind of ties in, make sure you have some grenades. And then what else do we have? Psycho. And then there's the Reaper.
Pretzeling my inner lobes.
So the Reaper would be the closest thing to a support role for him, where basically team kill skill duration is increased. This is kind of an interesting perk, but basically what it's doing is it's increasing not only Krieg's kill skill durations, but anybody else's. So any other character, which is all of them, who have kill skills, their duration of those kill skills is going to last a lot longer. It means like Gage, the kill skills that increase her elemental damage and keep her shields up and her speed high is going to be overextended. The skills that Maya has that makes her move around faster when she kills an enemy is going to be triggered. Many of the kill skills that Salvador has that basically keeps him gunzerking is going to be increased by this. So this is actually a pretty good support ability for the most part, especially when you're doing a lot of mobbing with a group. Let's see what skills it's giving us. Of course, here it is. Killing at me with a bullet increases. Okay, that's that kind of seesaw one. Once again, Taste the Blood's getting boosted. You're getting increased grenade damage. Percentage of overkill damage. It keeps you alive with some healing. And if you're sprinting around in this tree, it gives you some increased elemental damage. And, of course, there was that
Hope we don't pop a blood vessel.
Evil Barbarian. So, let's see. This is kind of... again, it allows us to stay in BuzzX Rampage longer. Gives us... Assault that will increases melee and shotgun damage once again. And... melee attacks have a chance to ignite. So this one's kind of a bit across the board, flexible. You can do a lot of different builds with that and make use of it. Key is you're once again just going for that magazine's that critical hit damage.
See the numbers,
then
taste
we
the
have the
violence.
crunches. So dazed, it's flesh. So the flesh gives us. You'll see Taste the Blood and Strip the Flesh stay, and with the Dazed, we get Blood Trance instead. So this is the thing to keep in mind when you're collecting these, is to find the skills, because once again, these can roll a lot of different ways. The skill points can be laid out to different skills. I'm pretty sure with this, the flesh ones is one of the ones I usually prefer because of it's giving me perks to these particular skills. Where was the dazed one? Well, I guess it'd be easier just to switch it and see.
And the choices are pretzeling my inner lobes.
Blood trance, that's what. Yeah, I think usually I prefer taste of blood over blood trance. Of course, the exception being the rule of the 3-skill one, which is what I was doing. So that way I actually get points in both of those skills. Not quite as maxed out, but I get the best of both worlds. But once again, this is what I was explaining before, where it's a bit of just preference and experimenting to what you're benefiting more from. Whether you have the skills spread out or whether they're more focused on less, one less skill and other two skills getting overpowered. And knowing that, once again, a legendary class mod may not be the best option depending on what you're going for. And just a brief minute too while we're here, because the next video will be focusing on relics and the importance of relics, and how relics can really just give you a bigger variety in your playstyle, or to really, in this case, put the cherry on top for your build you're going for. So in this case, just adding more explosive damage. But as you can see, I'm packing one that's a Skin of the Ancients, which gives me shock resistance and shield capacity. If I wanted to be more tanky, that is a really nice one to have. Or let's say I just really don't need it on this build, because this build kind of recycles, as I was explaining on the Krieg video, of being able to just keep going into Buzzax Rampage and the Super Psycho. So I don't really need the cooldown. This is not, you'll see the difference, this is the magenta. These are kind of like the equivalent of a legendary relic. There's as close as you're going to get to it. It's basically on par with, say, a Iridian gun or E-Tech gun. So as you can see, this is giving two really good perks together. They usually have names like this, of the Ancients. So Skins of the Ancients usually are resistance. There's Blood of the Ancients, which usually provides you with cooldown and elemental damage. There's a couple of others I can't think of the name of, but usually these are kind of hard to find because only loot midgets drop them. So unless you find the loot midget, it's hard to get these to drop. And that was the thing I was going to mention too, as far as legendary class mods. Typically, the best place to get these is from chubby enemies. And the best place to get chubby enemies is to go where you find lots of spider ants, lots of skags. In particular, usually the best as far as spawning chubbies, and chubbies have a chance of dropping legendary class mods as well as some other legendary stuff and iridium. And so then these are just regular purples. This one's a resistance relic, incinerate, shock, and explosive resistance. And then a strength relic, which is giving me melee damage and override cooldown. So if I was using, like, say, a skill over here that modifies my melee attack in some form or fashion, I don't think Krieg has one, honestly. But say like Salvador's, then the cooldown on that would be dramatically lowered. I think Maya has one as well. So I will get more into detail on that because I actually have to look and see how many of my relics I purged as well. I don't think I did quite as many because there are a lot of relics. They're almost more random in a way than class mods to a degree because you can get so many different combinations, especially on like the resistance. And I was hoping there was one on Krieg, but there's not. But there's like the stockpile ones, which are really useful too. They usually give you increased ammo capacity for at least two different weapons. Some of the better ones even give you extra grenades. But we'll go into more detail over relics next time. But in the meantime, I hope this video on class mods and how they work, what they actually are, and a little bit of an idea about how to build around them was beneficial. And I will see y'all next time.